Hey, folks, welcome. We officially live in a bizarro world for the first time in my life. I agree with Henry Kissinger. It's happened. I don't know why this is happening, folks. Welcome. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being a supporter. If you are a supporter at leecamp.net, as most of you know, I'm the most censored comedian in America. I don't get all the glitzy news articles about being censored the way Ricky Gervais does, even though he's not censored, even though he's on the largest video platform in the world, I think. I don't get all those glitzy articles. Instead, they just quietly suppress and delete all of my shows. So anyway, so if you want to see my videos continue, please become a member at leecamp.net. But in the meantime, let's talk about Henry Kissinger. And that's right, he is still alive. I know. Many of you are like, what in the flying fuck? Yes, still alive. Totally bizarre. 99 years old. One of the greatest war criminals the world has ever seen. And I mean greatest as in largest, not coolest, bestest war criminals. You don't hear a lot of people like, you are an awesome war criminal. All of the war criminals I know, you are like tops in my book, man. Killed, honestly, millions of people. If you take his strategies, his ideas, and add them all up, the breadth of them, the ideas he supported, the various calls he made for things to happen, killed millions of people, or helped kill millions of people. So this is a really unimaginable war criminal on that level. And he was speaking at Davos, World Economic Forum, where the people who rule the world get together and say what they're going to do on camera, so you can watch it and learn what it is how they want to control us next. Which is why I find it funny when people are like, look at their secret agenda. No, it's like a TED Talk, man. It's like they put it on YouTube. It's not a secret agenda. It's just an agenda. It's just a straight up agenda. If it were the secret shit, they don't do it on camera. They don't do a big old glitzy set with chairs and shit and have a bunch of people in the audience. Anyway, Henry Kissinger spoke at Davos, which I don't know how he's still speaking. I mean, does he still have teeth at this point? And by the way, if you've seen a photo of him, which I'll show you one in a second, he's just melting into himself. It's like, you ever made like a little figurine out of silly putty? And then it just slowly like into like a ball. And eventually you just have like a puddle of silly putty hours later. And you're like, wow, I can't believe that ever used to be a man. That's what he's becoming. He's like 70% of the way to puddle. And it's like, there's just like a little bloop lump left on the bloop puddle. So that's Kissinger. So I don't know if we should celebrate that, So it looks like kind of a shitty way to live. So at least he's maybe miserable. If you're going to root for something for a war criminal, why not that? So here he is. This is actually this is actually a better image of him than normal. This is him looking spry and on top of things. Can you imagine the amount of scrubbing that had to be done just to roll him out there, and how long it took to get that suit on him? If you ever try to put clothes on a baby who's like kicking a bunch, I imagine it's harder to get clothes on Kissinger because he's just silly putty melting into itself. So it's like, what is an arm and what's not an arm? Like it's just various gooey portions. So, and by the way, what I agree with Kissinger on, the mainstream media is flipping the fuck out. They are not happy. So Kissinger, as you can read in this headline, this is New York Times, by the way. Wonderful propaganda piece. Rigorous journalism. Yeah. Rigorous lies. Do you have any idea how hard we work to create these lies at New York Times? So Kissinger went in front of Davos and he said that, and even in the title, New York Times is trying to create propaganda in the sense that they're trying to manipulate your view of things. They're not lying about it outright, but the way they're framing it. Kissinger basically said there needs to be peace right now with Russia in Ukraine. And the way the New York Times phrases it is He said Ukraine should give up territory, which is not really what he said. He said it should go to the borders of 2014, I think he said. But giving up anything or any kind of peace talks with Russia is like a leper right now. It's the third rail of politics for our neoliberal bullshit, infinite war, government media conglomerate. They cannot speak of peace talks in any way happening. So this is how they view Kissinger saying that there should be that we should create peace with Russia. Ukraine should right now. So I'll read just a bit. Henry Kissinger, the polarizing 98-year-old, I think he's 99, isn't he? Former, maybe he's closing in on 99. Former Secretary of State who played a pivotal role. And this is them talking. I mean, this is when you are doing crazy mental gymnastics to talk about how great a war criminal is. This is how you phrase it. Pivotal role in orchestrating American détente with the Soviet Union. That's how they phrase it, as opposed to war criminal killed millions of people. There's just pivotal role in orchestrating détente. It's like, wow, you have worked really hard to make him sound like a good guy. Here's advice for the Ukraine: cede territory to make peace with Russia. Speaking via video link to the World Economic Forum in Davos. Oh, so that's why he looks a little less melted into himself, is because I think this photo must be 2020. There you go. So take this image and add 2 more years of melting. I mean, and considering the climate change and the heat waves we're facing, that melting has been accelerated. So that's him looking young. Anyway, speaking via video link to the World Economic Forum in Davos, on Monday, Mr. Kissinger said the failure to restart negotiations with Russia and the further alienation of the Kremlin would have dire long-term consequences for stability in Europe. He said negotiations need to begin in the next 2 months before it creates upheavals and tensions that will not be easily overcome. He said, ideally, the dividing line should be the return to the status quo ante, which he said restoration of Ukraine's borders before the war began. Pursuing the war beyond that point would not be about the freedom of Ukraine, but a new war against Russia itself. So he's saying the truth. It's not about Ukraine. It's about a war with Russia. It is a proxy war. It's between the U.S. and Russia, although the U.S. is roping in all these other countries to get involved in it. Please pause for mystery juice. So, and thank you for all the kind comments, everybody who's saying positive things. I really appreciate all of your support. But he's saying what the U.S. ruling elite right now are not at all saying, which is this war needs to end. And he's doing it for the wrong reasons, because he is a sociopath and a war criminal. He wants the war to end because he sees the writing on the wall that this actually is creating an economic world war that the U.S. and Europe will suffer immensely from. And I'm not saying Russia won't suffer. They may, but U.S. and Europe will suffer immensely from. And he believes it will hasten the end of the American empire. So Kissinger, although he would never say this part, this is the writing between the lines. This is layer number 2 of our reality that your mainstream media like the New York Times would never touch, or layer number 3, is that Kissinger wants the American empire to succeed at all costs, willing to kill millions of Cambodians. We dropped more munitions on Cambodia than the entire Allies dropped during the entire World War II. We dropped on Cambodia, okay? And that was partially Kissinger's doing. So this is a guy who is willing to kill millions to see the U.S. empire win and sustain. And he actually views this proxy war in Ukraine as harmful to the American empire because he feels the ramifications economically to Europe and the U.S. could cause upheaval and could hasten the end of the American empire. That is why he's saying this, not the reasons he's actually giving. He didn't even barely give any reasons, just that it could cause instability, I guess. Well, I shouldn't say that. I didn't read his whole statement. I'm just going off the quotes they're giving. He may have given extensive reasons, but that's the real reason, is he sees this as harmful to the American empire. Now, Joe Biden and the rest of the ruling elite, let's be honest, Joe Biden's nearly as old as Kissinger. He's melting himself. And although he has a lot more plastic surgery than Kissinger, so his silly putty man has had it just pulled back. It's like if you were to take the silly putty and press your face through it. That's what Biden looks like. So Biden and the people telling him what to say believe that this is actually useful. This proxy war is very important to the American empire because the American empire is fading, and they want to see a great split. They want to see a great splitting of the world's economy, where Russia and China are alienated and therefore can't continue to make inroads into cooperative economic systems with other countries. And so they're trying to create that, and they're trying to harm Russia as best they can. And Kissinger doesn't feel this is actually the path for American empire. But what kind of fucking bizarro world do we live in where I agree with Henry Kissinger? How did we get to sum this all up? How did we get to the point where I'm fucking agreeing with this maniac? I mean, we live in bizarro times. These are fucked up times where a war criminal is saying that we should create peace. One of the most prestigious and accomplished war criminals that has ever lived is saying we should create peace. Whereas the United States is saying don't create peace at any cost. They're telling Ukraine and Zelensky, whatever you do, do not create peace with Russia. Just let this keep going. Let as many Ukrainians die as possible. Do not stop this because it'll be bad for Russia. That's what the U.S. is saying. And we sent Boris Johnson over, and you can read the articles. I had them on the screen the other day. Boris Johnson went to Ukraine and told Zelensky, do not have peace talks. Do not end this. Just keep fighting this till every Ukrainian is dead. It's fucking incredible. Now, like I said, as similar to the times when I agreed with Donald Trump. I agreed with Donald Trump on creating peace with North Korea. Now, he wanted to do it for the wrong reasons, and he was stopped by the military-industrial complex. And Kissinger wants to create peace between Ukraine and Russia for the wrong reasons. He wants to do it because he feels it'll actually be beneficial to the American hegemony, American empire to end this thing. Whereas the U.S. ruling elite, the deep state, etc., they believe proxy war, draining Russia, sanctions against Russia, cutting them off economically, all good things for American empire. And the U.S. is going after other countries. They're doing a grand, you're either with us or you're against us moment to stop other countries from working with Russia. So, because the key players in Ukraine, Russia, U.S. proxy war is 10. If you include NATO, if you include all NATO, it's 30, so 33 or 35 or something. But if you get into these smaller nations, and I don't mean land size, I don't even necessarily mean population. I mean, in terms of geopolitical power, if you get into some of these smaller nations, the U.S. is dragging them into it and saying, stop working with Russia at all costs, or we will economically harm you. And it's working for some of these countries. They bow down to U.S. power. So, yes, and I agree with Lori. Kissinger is not saying this for humane reasons. Kissinger does not care about other humans, okay? He is fine with killing as many as possible. And he's saying this because he feels American hegemony will hold on longer if we end the proxy war. Thank you, dissenting opinion. If you think that this segment, this is going to be a little shorter than some of my other ones, but if you feel this segment even was worth $1, then please become a member at leecamp.net. You'll see when you go there, it takes you to the locals site, my locals page. Locals, if you don't know, is like Patreon, but there's a lot more interaction. I get to chat with you guys. I have supporter-only chats every Friday at noon. You get exclusive videos. You get all kind of shit. And the cheapest level to join up is $5 a month, so $1.25 a week. So if you feel like you got $1 out of this video, please go join up at leecamp.net. It'll take you to my locals page. And I won't be able to make these videos anymore without your help. So I hope you'll do that. And also, before you go, let me give you a link to my latest YouTube video, my latest comedy news video. Let's see. 1 second. And I will give you this clip. It's on who the U.S. will coup next. I'll put it in the comment section. This is it's only like 9 minutes, so I think it's really worth your time. Check it out. This is who the U.S. will coup next, and I don't hear anyone talking about it. So I think it's important, or very few talking about it. So thank you so much for joining me, and keep fighting.